Hello and welcome to Across Africa. I'm James Creedon with our weekly look at stories from across the continent. Coming up in the programme, France 24 talks to Zannah Mustapha, the Nigerian lawyer who helped negotiate the release of 82 of the Chibok schoolgirls last week. The 52-year-old has been mediating between the government and Boko Haram militants for the release of the Chibok girls and for an end to the insurgency. And our reporters take a closer look at the culture of emigration in the Kai region of Mali, where much of the local economy relies on money sent back home from Malians living abroad. And an African at the head of the WHO for the first time, the Ethiopian Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus will take over as Director General of the World Health Organization at the end of June. 82 of the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram have been reunited with their parents in Abuja. Behind the hostage release was Nigerian lawyer Zannah Mustapha. He led negotiations in the forest of Sambisa with members of Boko Haram. His foundation was created a few years ago to mediate between the different sides of the conflict. It has opened a school for both orphans of Boko Haram members and soldiers killed fighting them. The foundation also holds workshops to accompany the widows of members of the armed group. Moise Gomis, our correspondent in Nigeria, went to find out more about the Zannah Mustapha Foundation in Maiduguri.
Once a week, these women meet up in the playground of this school in Maiduguri. Widows and mothers, they each have at least one child that attends the school. They're widows of fallen Nigerian army soldiers and of Boko Haram insurgents.
Our weekly meeting aims to promote unity, to help each other and to live in peace with one another. And if something bad happens to one of us, like an illness, we will visit her and pray for her.
Zanna Mustafa's guiding principle is to bring together and unite people that are fundamentally opposed. His foundation welcomes the orphans of Boko Haram fighters killed in the rebellion. Zanna Mustafa became a mediator during the Boko Haram insurgency and didn't hesitate to enter the armed group's headquarters to negotiate the release of the Chibok schoolgirls.
I have been doing a peace work for the past 1 decade, and that, if you are talking of de-radicalization, we have been doing it ever since the insurgency started. So we were able to go up for the mediation.
Zanna Mustafa's success hasn't changed the goals of the foundation. Education for all remains its priority. This classroom was built in Fori in Maiduguri. Every morning from Monday to Friday, these children have access to basic education. Many of them live in a camp for displaced people very close to the school.
I really want them to be better people in the future. They have gone through a lot due to the Boko Haram insurgency. So I want to teach them how to read, how to write, so they can have a better future and also express themselves in a better ways.
To integrate, educate and curb the influence of the armed Islamist group, Zanna Mustafa and his team are convinced their foundation will have a long-lasting impact, one day at a time.
To Mali next, where our correspondents visited the Kai region in the west of the country, where emigration is commonplace and is frequently encouraged by families. Emigrants finance the bulk of infrastructure in the region with the funds that they send back home. This report by Anthony Fouchard and Emmanuel Londe.
Up until the end of the 19th century, slaves crossed the threshold of this door of no return in Mali, headed for Senegal. Today, Malians are free and their departure voluntary. Migration has always been encouraged in this region. Those who make their fortune abroad support their village back home.
At least 90% of the schools, hospitals and water infrastructures have been built with money from the migrants.
This petrol station and its staff is entirely financed by Malians living abroad. Conscious that the government isn't able to help them, they're developing their region themselves. The same goes for this clinic, which cost nearly 120,000 CFA francs.
In Mali, we do not have enough funds. The government cannot send funds to the entire country. So people take matters into their own hands. Communities organize themselves to take care of their health.
After several years in Europe, Bakary returned to Kai. First, he opened this petrol station, then this money transfer office. According to government statistics, the Malian diaspora sends 21 billion francs back home annually, some of which passes through Bakari's money transfer branch.
All of the agencies in this zone receive a lot of money, around 100,000 euros a month.
That comes from the diaspora?
Yes, from the diaspora, everywhere in the world.
Today, there's no El Dorado for Malian migrants anymore, as was the case in the 1980s. Keeping young people in the region has become a necessity, especially to develop and exploit its natural resources.
The World Health Organization is soon to have a new Director General. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus from Ethiopia won the most votes from 186 member states. The 52-year-old replaces Margaret Chan, who will step down at the end of June after a 10-year term at the helm. Dr. Tedros will be the first African to head up the WHO. Nicolas Germain has more.
Dr. Tedros Adhanom was warmly congratulated by his supporters. The Ethiopian candidate will become the first African leader of the influential World Health Organization. On Wednesday, he told the press his priority was universal health insurance in even the poorest nations. He also recognized that the WHO is seriously underfinanced.
The fundraising unit in WHO is really small, be it in terms of number or the skill sets you have in that unit. We need to strengthen the capacity of the fundraising unit in WHO.
Dr. Tedros, as he wishes to be known, is a former health minister and a malaria expert who drew praise for strengthening Ethiopia's healthcare workforce. He backs greater access to birth control. But his critics say he covered up 3 cholera epidemics in his country, an allegation he denies. He's also come under fire for having been part of a repressive government. NGOs and even the US State Department have accused the Ethiopian government of torturing political opponents and gunning down hundreds of protesters. But back in Ethiopia, many welcomed the news of his election.
When I saw that Dr. Tedros was elected, I was very happy. He's an Ethiopian and an African candidate. This shows that Ethiopians can lead international organizations.
The election of Dr. Tedros has made Ethiopians proud. But most importantly, it makes the whole of Africa very proud.
Dr. Tedros will aim to improve the image of the WHO. In 2014, it was accused of fumbling the response to the Ebola epidemic. And a recent report by the Associated Press said it spent more each year on employees' travel than on fighting major diseases like AIDS and malaria.
To South Africa next, where some 3,000 Angolan mercenaries who fought with the apartheid-era government against their fellow Angolans say they've been abandoned by the authorities in the northern region of South Africa. These Angolans are viewed as traitors in their native country and had found shelter in South Africa before apartheid ended. Julie Jameau and Amy Gibbings report.
Goats now drink from what was once a swimming pool. In the 1980s, this sports club was at the heart of the social life of Pomfret, a former South African army base.
We had tennis courts here, a swimming pool, lots of things, a gym, even a bar.
Now it lies in ruins after being looted and reclaimed by nature. But 3,000 people still live here, mostly Angolan veterans and their families. Jose Lourenco fought on the side of the apartheid-era government. Like other Angolans, he was attracted by the prospect of a salary and a future in South Africa. He served in the 32 Battalion alongside white soldiers, seeing action in Namibia and Angola at the height of the Cold War.
If we go back to Angola, they would say to us, "You killed us, you fought against your country, go back to South Africa." But in South Africa, they say, "You're the enemy, go back to Angola."
The battalion was disbanded in 1993, and in 2000 the South African government closed the base. Public services were wound down and the town's water supply was cut to just once a week. The electricity supply was suspended 3 years ago. Despite the increasingly tough conditions, a hard core of veterans and their families refused to leave the town.
I love this place. It's where I grew up. It's our father history also remained this place. That's why we don't want to move. They can just provide us with electricity. That's all we want.
But some of the younger generation don't see a future here.
Staying here, it's useless to me because without electricity, it's not a better place. So after my matric, I really have to go.
Most of the residents continue to cling to the promises made by a government of a bygone era. And for now, they are staying put.
And staying in South Africa, people across the political spectrum are lamenting the slow pace of change when it comes to land reform. Frustration with poor living conditions in informal settlements is driving up unlawful land grabs, as Nicolas Germain explains in this report.
Residents of Tshwane municipality are frustrated. They say they live in overcrowded areas and want to move into what they consider free spaces. But local authorities say it would be an invasion of land belonging to private owners. More than 2 decades after the end of apartheid rule, most of the country's land is still in the hands of the minority white population.
The biggest issue for us right now is land. That's it. We want land and services, and to get electricity and water so that we can live our lives, and so that our children can live like all the others.
They've been saying land is available, but where is it? We've nowhere to go. We live in these shacks that burn easily. All they give us are useless small solar systems that don't even supply power to a stove, but only sustain the lights and charge phones.
In Africa's most industrialized nation, 1 in 5 families still live in informal dwellings. The mayor of the city says he cannot help people who settle on someone else's private property.
You have a lot of people that occupy land illegally and sometimes even on private piece of land, and then demand that the municipalities are supposed to be providing for services in those pieces of land. Now, it's impossible for us to go and invest on property that doesn't belong to the city.
President Jacob Zuma says he's committed to the principle of land redistribution. But he also says South Africa will not embark on lawless land grabs against white-owned farms like those that happened in Robert Mugabe's neighbouring Zimbabwe.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Across Africa. Thanks for watching France 24.